What's good, everybody? Welcome to Front Runner Podcast Collective, where we talk as friends, we argue like cousins, and somehow we leave just a tad smarter. I am your host, Vince, your occasional therapist, and sometimes your favorite bad influence. We unpack wins, the mess, the middle ground, with jokes, have receipts, and maybe a hot take will age badly. We also have Soraya. She's producing the show. She will be bringing in some of the notes that we're going to need for this podcast. And today, we are in the middle of America. We are in the Central Division, where we will be talking about the Chicago Bulls, the Indiana Pacers, the Milwaukee Bucks, and so on and so on. So buckle up. We're going to have a really good podcast for you today. And let's get this thing running, shall we? I want to start with a couple things. One, we are going to be breakneck podcasting over like the next 2 or 3 days. We know that we are a couple podcasts short. Even though you got a podcast on Tuesday, we know that we are a couple podcasts short. So at some point during this weekend, there will be 2 more podcasts, and that will have the Southeast Division and also the Atlantic Division. Now, we don't know if we're going to break it up into 2 so it can be digestible for you. And then there'll be correlating blogs that go along with it. And mind you, if you're not getting the blog or what have you, that is on FRPC beam.ly. The company was bought over the last couple of weeks or whatever the case may be, so that is where it is. And we'll also put it in the notes in this podcast as far as that's concerned. So you'll have that at the bottom. You can go right to it, and it will give your accompanying piece to the podcast. It'll have a lot of things in there. It'll have like maybe some stats that we left out. It'll have some observations from myself and from Soraya. We are really proud of it, and we hope that it kind of brings you just a little more context into what we do beforehand, and also a little bit more about the podcast that you're listening to now. So keep that in mind as well. Also, we want to talk to you. Get with us either on Twitter, X, however you want to. I'll still say Twitter. And so it's Frontrunner PC. And then the producer of this show, it is @Rhea_Funch, FRPC. Funch is spelled FUNCH. Make sure that you have those. And also, you can send us an email, frpcvince@gmail.com. We want to talk to you. We want to get your opinions on the show. We want to get your opinions on maybe what we talked about your team. So let us know how we can get better, one. And also let us know if we were right on the button about your squad, or is there something else that we should be talking about when we bring up your squad. And speaking of squad, let's get into this podcast, shall we? We are going to start in Chicago. Chicago. Chicago is a team that is middling, literally. They're not bad enough to get the draft pick that they probably need. They're not good enough to really contend. So they are in perpetual play-in mode. Now, I will say this about Chicago. They put on some really awesome performances when they get to the play-in. They scared the living hell out of like Miami and people like that, but then they always seem to succumb to whoever they're up against in the play-in. Now, this year's iteration of the Bulls is a lot like last year's iteration of the Bulls, which for Chicago fans might be, it's another year where you wish you would just have your front office rip off the Band-Aid, or if you are savvy enough, make a couple, shrewd trades here and there and see what you could do and kind of move up within the ranks, especially this year with how bad the East is. So Chicago still we still have Chicago as a team that will probably be in the play-in mix, even with all the injury situations that are going on in Philadelphia, in Boston, in Orlando, in Indiana. Milwaukee is not dealing with an injury anymore, but they had Damian Lillard, who had the Achilles tear, and then they bought him out, and he went back to Portland. So there's a lot of teams that Chicago could be way better than, but because of the fact that they have not been in a situation to get that impact player in the draft or what have you, we're kind of in this same situation that we've been in for quite some time. Now, the Reinsdorfs are really happy about this because they get an extra gate. Okay, so more money for the Reinsdorfs. But let's get to the team itself, shall we? One thing that I do want to say is that I did watch a Chicago Bull game, preseason game lately. And what I did notice is that they did use their athletes way more in that game. And I was wondering if this is a kind of a glimpse into the future of what the Chicago Bulls is going to look like. They played against the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the kids closed the game out. It was a 118-117 win over Cleveland. Dalen Terry's chase down block, Jalen Smith with a denial and a steal in a grown-up sequence. Our guy Matas Buzelis, which is kind of the beam of light that's in Chicago, a Chicago-born young man who went home. He scored 19 points, had 18 rebounds in 18 minutes. He showed no fear. He showed Seattle, Meadow, to Mobley and Jared Allen at the rim. He was not playing no games. He's a play finisher, not a heliocentric type of guy, and that scales pretty good if you got a really good point guard. That's could be where the problem lies, or could be where the problem's solved. We will talk about Josh Giddey momentarily. We also saw Asingwe, who is their rookie, and he showed some defensive prowess in this particular game. I don't know how much he's going to play this year because he's still very, very raw, and we just got, and also he's kind of still on the slight side. Chicago has some pieces that they are actually excited about, but they still don't have that impact player. And how do they get it? So hopefully we can answer some of these questions along the way. But the patience must show receipts weekly for this new iteration to catch form. Now in Cleveland, they showcase their wingspan, their motor, and their composure from depth. This year's development first will be something that is going to be prioritized by the front office and by the coaching staff, which is great, because if you can kind of get yourself into a situation where you can get yourself a good draft pick, especially in this draft that's coming up, you can start the healing process of having more talent, high-end talent you don't have right now. Now, Buzelis might work himself into that situation. We'll talk about him soon. But if you look at, like, Kobe White is a really nice player. I love his development. I love what he's turned out to be. And there might be other levels to it because he started to score in bunches last year. Giddey's there, who he did stabilize the offense. I like that piece. He did get his money, and we'll talk about that. But then you have Nikola Vucevic, and there is some of the problem. You also have Patrick Williams. There are still warts on this roster, no doubt, and these things are going to be pushed out with time because Patrick Williams is in the middle of a 4-year, $90 million contract, which we still think to this day, not great. Not great, Bob. So let's get to why this all matters. Minutes now shape dollars later. And what I mean by that, what Kobe White and his production, now can Josh Giddey live up to the contract that he just got extended by? Can these dudes lead the Chicago Bulls to better? Now, I think with the talent around them, I would have to say not as of yet. The one thing that Josh Giddey brought to the Chicago Bulls this last season, they got really good looks at the rim. Whether it was a pass that he made that nobody would have saw except for him, or it was his ability to penetrate the lane and then kick out to shooters. Now, Kobe White plays with his hair on fire, and I love that his energy. I love that he can get hot very quickly. I wonder if Kobe White is going to be a trade piece down the road for a team who needs like a 6-man who's instant offense off the bench. Now, Chicago fans will be like, why are you taking one of our better players away from us? The reason why I would tell you that I would personally want to trade Kobe White is because of the fact that I would be looking, build up my draft assets, and then be able to then parlay those into moving up in the draft or moving around where I can still accrue even more assets. Kobe White is a gem of a piece that you have. He will be somebody that will be sought after at the trade deadline if you choose to move him. Now, if you don't obviously choose to move him, you got other pieces. The other piece that's out there that a lot of people are talking about is Vucevic. And you'll say, well, Vince, we've heard this story 3 years in a row. Vucevic is going to get traded. Now he's in the last year of his contract, and you're probably not going to get a lot for him. Maybe you can get like a second draft guy, somebody that somebody that an organization gave up on. Maybe if you attach it with something else, you could get somebody better or future draft compensation. I think that the Chicago Bulls should be looking at something where it would be future draft compensation. When you got Buzelis, who's a quick low 3 waiting to happen, he can relocate to the corner. He also loves to crash down and get boards and get tip-in dunks and things of that nature. His handle is a little bit better than what you would think it is. He has like a hezzy move that provides instant rim pressure. The guy is somebody you can start building around. Could be part of your foundation for later. Now, Asingwe, who was your first round pick this last year, he is a board man. This dude is active. He gets rebounds. It is amazing. And when they played against the Cleveland Cavaliers, with him, they were a plus 12 on the court in 14 minutes. Ayo Dosunmu is another guy that, yes, I know Bulls fans love him. He went to the University of Illinois. He stabilizes that second unit, pushes the pace, and also provides basically he gives you that spear, that tip of the spear on the defensive end. He's a point of attack defender, pretty physical, holds up pretty well, and he can go from point guard to shooting guard to sometimes if you have a smaller wing at that 3 position, he can go ahead and guard that person as well. I like a lot about Ayo Dosunmu. I love this kid. I think the one thing that you have to think about if you're the Chicago Bulls is, can you turn Ayo Dosunmu into a pick later down the road? Not necessarily because of the fact that you're trying to get rid of him, just because of the fact that, again, you're trying to affect the high-end talent. And I'm going to continue to preach that throughout the rest of this segment. Now, their cap sheet right now is pretty friendly. They have a max space for next year if the timeline align. And I got that from John Hollinger of The Athletic. And if you do not read John Hollinger, he is very informed and he puts together some thought-provoking pieces. So if you love this podcast, go ahead and jump on The Athletic. The Athletic has really good writers, especially for the NBA. A lot of knowledgeable people, and they provide really good information or jump offs to the stories that we're talking about. Now, I will say this: after Vucevic, there's nothing. We got nothing. Okay. And the problem with that is that Vucevic his contract is going to expire at the end of this season. And what is going to be in the middle? We have no idea. There is no plan for this right now. Now I'm sure Karnisovich will tell us that he does have a plan. I have not seen that plan as of yet, and we'll see how that goes. But if for some reason you're able to go ahead and move on from Vucevic and get something back for him, whether it's second round picks, we never know who is going to be desperate at the trade deadline. This is another piece that you're able to kind of, move as a chess piece down the road. Now let's get to some people who have been doing well, have produced for the Chicago Bulls. The before mentioned Coby White. His true shooting percentage last year was .601. He had a 3-point attempt rate of 27.4%, and he had a usage rate of 19.5 on ball. That's not very much, but the good thing about that is that you have Josh Giddey, who is pretty much your quintessential point guard. Now the rookie Buzelis, he was a rookie last year. He's in his second year this year. The true shooting percentage last year was 57.1%. He had a 3-point attempt rate at 47.9. That's great. And then he had total rebounds of 9.6%. His usage rate was also 18.7, so he was on ball at a decent amount, and he seemed to value the basketball. He wasn't a turnover machine, which is great to hear especially when you're talking about a young cat who's at 6'8" is Matas Buzelis. Really nice. And he also plays with an edge. He plays with a fire, and he doesn't seem to be intimidated by all of the luminaries that play in the NBA whatsoever. It's something that you love to see. He's not going to back down from your Kevin Durant of the world. He's not going to back down from Giannis Antetokounmpo and people like that. This is a great thing for the Chicago Bulls, especially Buzelis being somebody who was from Chicago. It was a lifelong dream to play for the Chicago Bulls, so that was such a good story last year. Now, why this matters between these three guys is efficiency signals closing vibe. If Giddey's catch and shoot attempts are more, and he continues to shoot the ball at the rate that he did last year, you might have something. Because the triumvirate of, and I know I was talking about trading Coby White, and I'll get back to that in a second, but the triumvirate of Giddey, Buzelis, and Coby White, as far as productivity, as far as points are concerned, there's your three. There's your three if you're talking about, okay, this is our stabilizing offense. We can rely on this every single night, and that's what you want. Now again, Coby White, if he's that productive, why would you want to get rid of him? Again, it's not about getting rid of somebody productive just for the sake of tanking. It's what you can get back for him. Can you turn Coby White into a 20-year-old piece and also a draft asset? That's the long-term, future-focused thinking that you need from the Chicago Bulls at this point in time, especially if you do not want to be 37-45, 39-43, 40-42, and you're just middling in the Eastern Conference, and you're seeing teams like a team that they played in the play-in last year, the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks this year is one of the top 3 teams in the East. A team that also is ascending is the Orlando Magic, who has a really good young core, and then they added Desmond Bane. So you see how it can change quickly. It can change on a dime. I'm not saying Chicago is that close, because they're not. We're going to need to see a lot more from Buzelis this year, and we're going to need to see a lot more from Giddey this year to even start to think that we have something that we can start to go, okay, well, if we add a piece here and there, we can go ahead and start contending. I think we're a long way away from that. I'm not trying to push that on anybody, but what I'm saying is that you can see the outline of something good in Chicago. And why I continue to say, hey, well, go ahead and trade Coby White, because Coby White is for a good team, Coby White is a 6-man. Can he start? Yes. Can he start for the Chicago Bulls? Yes. This iteration of the Chicago Bulls, we're around the play-in all the time. If you really want to move on and ascend to another level, Coby White will be a piece that you would go ahead and jettison off, recoup a draft pick or what have you, and then hopefully with that draft pick and or your own draft pick, get yourself somebody who can provide a better upside than just Coby White, who is a tremendous scorer. I take nothing away from him on that, but we all know that in the half-court offense or the half-court defense, Coby White will get picked on. He's very slight. He doesn't stand up as far as defense is concerned. You don't have the rim protection that you would need to alleviate whatever Coby White deficiencies are. So those are the type of things that I want Chicago Bulls fans to think about. I'm not just like crapping on your team. I want you to get better, because the Chicago Bulls in the playoffs is a good time for a lot of people. All right, I'm just saying that. Now, a couple other things. Have we ever thought about maybe starting Ayo Dosunmu? He is the half-court cure. Right now, he's a super sub, and we don't know what his value is going to be. But the one thing that you know about Ayo Dosunmu is this: defensively wise, especially if you have Giddey playing basically a big guard situation and he's not guarding one of the wings, here's a guy who can be your point of attack defender. And there's not even a close question about that. This is the problem with Coby White. Coby White probably will start for the Chicago Bulls, no doubt, because of the offense is electric. But we know for certain that he will be picked on unmercifully. And the reason why it all matters is that roles creep kills efficiency. Yes, it's really nice to make sure that Coby White is on the court getting you 20 points a game. You know what sucks? Is that their guard goes out for 28 to 32. Ayo Dosunmu will kind of quell that. Is he the better offensive player? No, he's not. Do you need to put the ball in the basket? Yes, you do. But keep in mind who your center is. If Nikola Vucevic is your center, where's the rim protection coming from? Because Buzelis is a weak side rim protector. Like, he could come off and help. But he's not that guy who's going to be standing underneath the basket waiting for some wing or guard to come down the chute to go ahead and deter that shot. That is not what Vucevic's job is. He shoots the ball at a decent rate. He'll grab you some rebounds. He's not a great defender, and he never was. He wasn't this in Orlando, and he hasn't been this for Chicago either. So now, we talked about Sengue a little bit, and what I will say right now is that what you want to do is you want to get him minutes, but you want to curtail those minutes to a certain group of players. You want to make sure he's on the court with Josh Giddey. You want to make sure he's on the court with like maybe Buzelis, or actually in this case, you want him on the court with Coby White, so they can get him the basketball, put him in the right situations. It wouldn't be bad to put him in the lineup when Nick Vucevic is in the lineup, because he's a decent pocket passer. And the one thing that Sengue does have is raw athleticism, and it has shown itself in the preseason, and it showed itself in the pre-draft workouts. So you might have somebody. It's going to take time. He is super raw. I'm trying to think of a guy. Old head Chicago fans will know exactly who I'm talking about when I say this name. He never really amounted to what you guys wanted him to be. But do you guys remember Tyrese Thomas out of LSU? Tyrese Thomas was a freak athlete. He was a pogo stick waiting to happen. Electrifying dunks. Now, this dude actually had a decent little career. A lot of people loved him. Stromile Swift. That's another guy he kind of reminds me of. But I'm hoping that he can put it together a little bit more and understand his role. And I think you might have something, because here is a guy who will be able to give you the rim protection that you currently do not have. And if you're talking about having a Sengue and Ayo Dosunmu to kind of anchor your defense, and then you have Giddey and you have Buzelis and whoever is that other starter with those people, then you are starting to form a team that can do something. That's what you're looking for. But we're like years down the road before Asingwe could start. At least 2 or 3. I'm telling you right now, discipline preserves builds. So you want to make sure you get this kid enough playing time, but you don't want to overexpose him where he loses confidence. And basically the watch list is that it is up to Giddey to perform at the level of this contract that he just got. This doesn't work unless Giddey is going to continue to improve. Not saying that he can't, just saying that now that you got your money, make sure that the hustle stays the same. So basically, what are we looking for from Chicago this year? We're looking for the kids to close. We're looking for Buzelis. We're looking for Asingwe. We're looking for Ayu Dosunmu, and we're looking to make sure that our guy Josh Giddey continues to improve. Where you have some opportunities to augment your team, maybe you can get somebody to go ahead and take Vucevic off your hand, especially with him having a contract that's about to expire. Because the one thing that you can start selling towards January is expiring contracts, so then you can go ahead and get in the mix for whoever is the free agent du jour in June and July. So, hope is cheap. Stacking proof is priceless. The next checkpoint is simple. Can those minutes survive against starters? Can the rookies trim turnovers and fouls without losing juice? Do me a favor. Drop some angles in the mailbag. Let me know what you think of this iteration of the Chicago Bulls. Here is that email again. It's frpcvince@gmail.com, or hit us up on Twitter, which is @frontrunnerpc or @Rhea_Funch FRPC. Hope is the schedule. Meet us there. Now, for a team that had a lot of juice going into the end of last year, and it just ended with an absolute thud, and that is the Indiana Pacers. So we're going to talk about the Pacers and Pacer Nation. They had a great run last year. They played so well. It was it was an extraordinary story. They just came out of nowhere, and Tyrese Halliburton was leading that charge, and then you know what happened. And Indiana found itself in full reset mode. Halliburton's Achilles injury and his rehab situation is going to take all year. Now, do you care? I mean, yeah, because it kind of sucks to be in a situation where you were in the NBA Finals and now you are looking at maybe a lottery pick this year. Now, I know that your coach, Rick Carlisle, is not about that life. He should be about that life. And the front office might want to think about a couple things at this point too. Because that's not the only person they lost. And then you lose Miles Turner to Milwaukee without a signing trade. Here is your starting center. He's gone. Maybe if you had him, you might have been able to keep this thing afloat, get yourself into a play-in situation, and then see what happens. So you will be leaning on Andrew Nembhard this year. He will be stepping into the point guard role. His defense travels. He was impressive last year in the playoffs and also in the finals. He had a killer mentality when he was guarding folks, and it was great to see his development over the year. Now, with his defense traveling, the questions is that in the middle, if you got a point of attack defender, that means he can slow down your guard a little while. Now, who is going to be at the rim to help? Well, here are the candidates. They signed Matt Huff to a deal. He's not a rim protector, but they do still have Isaiah Jackson, who came off a pretty bad injury. James Wiseman also came off a pretty bad injury, and they also have Obi Toppin. If you want to play a small ball 5, Toppin is your guy. You're going to see a lot of great dunks. He can block some shots. He's more of a weak side rim protector than he is just right there, just standing in the middle of the paint and going ahead and blocking shots. But if you are moving around like banshees and things of that nature, and he comes off one of the wings to help at the rim, you know what's going to happen. Rim protection by committee means chaos by design, so you know, let's muck it up. Indiana has abandoned its Timglow identity. It just has to find new engines to sustain without Tyrese and Turner's gravity. Why this all matters? Basically this: roles reset now, and it shapes the next season, 2026 and 2027 ceiling. Because Tyrese will be back. It's what these guys do this year. The habits that are grown this year. I'm telling you exactly what Carlisle is telling these guys right now. Your habits this year are fueling what next year's possibilities could be. I don't know if it's verbatim he's saying that, but I know for sure that's what he's preaching to this iteration of the Indiana Pacers. Is your habits, your work ethic this year will have a lot to do and will show us the insight to what we can be next year when Tyrese Halliburton comes back. I love Soraya's note. She said a sprint team lost its engine. Development must draft. We're killing the Indianapolis 500 references right now. I love it. What are the things that the Indiana Pacers fans should be looking for this year? Well, identity claimed unchanged, but tempo dragged lightly without Tyrese, obviously. Nembhard will be at the wheel. He will be creating and pushing the buttons to get the ball. Now, also, keep in mind, you also got Pascal Siakam. Pascal Siakam is another guy that in a short roll situation, people will be panicked once he has the ball at the nail. As he starts diving towards the rim, he'll bring attention to the middle of the paint, and then he can kick it out to shooters. And Indiana does have shooters. Ben Mathurin is one of them. Nembhard is another. Nesmith, another guy that you're hoping that can take another leap. You know, without Tyrese Halliburton, you're going to need some guys to step up. You're going to need some guys who are going to go into roles that were not there last year. Because the points are going to have to come from somewhere. Now, Pascal Siakam will handle some of that. But remember, they lost their number one option, and they lost their number 3 option in Miles Turner because he's up the road in Milwaukee. So who is going to deliver the points for the Indiana Pacers this year? Now, Nembhard will probably step into one of those roles as far as that's concerned. I don't know what kind of upside he has when it comes to his scoring prowess. I'm not saying that he can't get into like the mid-teens and things of that nature, but he's not like a 24, 25 point per game dude. So those points are going to have to come from somewhere. Where else can we look for to get these points? Is it going to be points by committee? Is there a diamond in the rough on the bench that we haven't thought about? Well, let's get into it. Let's see what we're talking about right now. If Carlisle can preach defense to this team, then another star for them could be their points off transition. And what I mean by that is that if you can get a decently stout defense by using Isaiah Jackson and James Wiseman, you have enough shooting with Nesmith, Pascal Siakam, Andrew Nembhard, Ben Mathurin, where those corners and people getting to those corners is going to be absolutely a must. Because if you're running with pace and they're running towards those corners, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get some threes. And then if you're in a situation where somebody crashes down towards the corner, you know, take the ball to the hoop, collapse the defense, a couple swings, and now you got a wide open 3. This is the hope for this team. Like, if you thought for 1 second you could put yourself in a situation where you can be really competitive, the problem is that the East is so weak this year that the Pacers might fall into a play-in spot or like the 6th slot where they miss the play-in altogether. Now, I'm not saying 100% that's going to happen. It just depends on the mentality of this team, and do they have a never say die attitude. Rick Carlisle is no joke as a coach. There were times in Dallas where those teams had no business competing for anything, and he kept them relative. Now, the guy who is looking for more money come the end of the season, who has opportunities just laid at his feet, one Benedict Mathurin. The one thing that we've not seen from Benedict Mathurin over his time in Indiana is that he scores for himself. And I'm not saying he's a selfish guy. He doesn't see the floor well. You know, he's looking to score at every opportunity. It's just his mindset. Now, the guy who I'm very interested in, and this is another guy who I think could take up some of the soak up some of the minutes and some of the productivity, is one Jarace Walker. We've been waiting 2 years. He played a lot in the G League this last year. They said the three-point shot is buttery. He's 6'9". He's 235 pounds. He was a good defender when he was in college. He provides some girth, some strength, so the rebounding is there. He also provides something that Benedict Mathurin doesn't. He can be a second side initiator. If he's sitting at the three-point line in the corner and somebody crashes down on him aggressively, he can put the ball on the deck. He can go ahead and then attack the rim, and if the defense switches over, it slides over to him, he can kick it to an open man, and he is adept at doing it. So that might be the other guy that I would be most interested in if I was a Indiana Pacers fan looking at the first 10 to 15 games. What does Jarace Walker look like? How much time is he actually getting? So what we're talking about, on-court takeaways. Nembhard's offensive growth is required. His defense is going to be playoff steady and ready at all times, so we don't have to worry about that. Mathurin must shoulder some creation. Efficiency without Tyrese is going to be paramount. Now, the finishing groups. At the 5, it's going to be a collaboration between Toppin, Isaiah Jackson, Huff, and also Wiseman. That battle royale at the center spot is going to be crazy. Huff was brought in, mind you, to basically replace the Miles Turner spacing situation. He was not brought in for rim protection. Now, if he can pick and pop with volume and play drop defense, your secondary creation and the people who are playing those spots must deliver if for some reason you think you're going to do well this year. So some of the analytic trends that you should look for as well is the three-point attempt rate. They were 21st last season. Losing Tyrese Halliburton and also Miles Turner, it nukes the attempts because that's where a lot of the attempts were coming from. Mathurin, who shot 34% last year. Nembhard, who shot 29% last year. McConnell's a non-threat as well. So where is those three-point shots coming from? Mathurin has to shoot better. Now, Nembhard did shoot better in the playoffs. That is something that is going to be now the norm, or are we going to fall back to our averages? Fewer deep pulls, fewer hit-aheads. The stretch 5 or the rim protection. It is a double-edged sword. Huff will definitely shoot the 3 ball for you. Again, Isaiah Jackson and James Wiseman are the guys who are the quintessential rim protectors. But they're not necessarily going to shoot the 3 at any rate. They don't do it very well, and you don't expect them to do it. Now, Carlisle's nuisance factor is going to be high. He will steal wins, and he will scheme, and he will have discipline for his teams. He will figure out a way to win games. You know, I don't know how Indiana Pacers fans are feeling right now. If they just want to kind of retreat, get a real decent draft pick, and then move on to next year, or you want to try to compete. Now, I mean, when I say compete, you guys are like competing to just like make the playoffs and kind of just be there. It's like being the vice president of the United States. It's kind of like you're there in the White House, but you don't really make an impact, basically. So I don't know if the Indiana Pacers fans, the euphoria you felt last year when you were making the NBA Finals, I don't know necessarily just getting to the playoff and basically just being a participant of the playoffs is good enough for you guys. Y'all tell me. Hit me up on Twitter, FrontRunnerPC. Indiana's offense will have to slow down without Tyrese. There's no question about that. Because of the fact that he can play in the chaos. He can play in the storm. Nembhard is a good guard. But the processing that Tyrese Halliburton has and the processing that Andrew Nembhard has are two different animals. More responsibility for Mathurin, or is it more responsibility or a new opportunity for our guy Jarace Walker? I'm hoping that there's opportunity for Jarace Walker. I was high on him a couple years ago in the draft, and I'm hoping that we see more of him on the court. Also, Siakam is now the number one option. He's better as a number two, but because of the injury and because of everything going on, he's going to have to slide into that number one spot. That means that his name is the first name on the whiteboard. You know, you're going to have to muck it up. Maybe put Obi Toppin in at the 5 a little bit for energy, like 6-minute energy pushes and things of that nature. That's where maybe you get into the transition game a little bit. But the offense is going to have to come from somewhere, and it's going to have to come somewhere with inside the house. Unless you're willing or wanting to go ahead and maybe trade off a couple more pieces to make sure you end up in the low end of the lottery where you're picking anywhere between 3 and 7. The next team we have to hit is the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, Milwaukee had a pretty strange offseason. So let's get to it. We got Giannis, who's now the point forward, right? Wisconsin's furious online, because of the fact that myself and others are trying to trade Giannis, get him out of Milwaukee. Giannis has even said, hey, I'm with the team. I support the team. I want to be with the team. 6 or 7 months from now, I might feel different. And that's where everybody kind of held their collective breaths. So John Horst, who is the player personnel executive of the Milwaukee Bucks, made a bold move. He bought out Damian Lillard. He brought in Miles Turner because he was like, I'm not losing Giannis just because. We're going to keep this marriage together, damn it. By hook or by crook, we're going to keep it together. Giannis has been a top 4 MVP for 5-6 years now. He averaged 30, 11, and 6, and he shot over 60% twice. He is the system. So make the system faster. And that's what they plan to do. Doc Rivers said, be us, do things quicker. It's not imitation, it's optimization. Quicker means early advantage. It means getting to your spot as quickly as possible. Miles Turner arrival. So you take away from Indiana and you add to your team, especially with the rivalry between these two teams. It is a chef's kiss. What Miles Turner provides for the Milwaukee Bucks is what Giannis absolutely needs. Brook Lopez was older. He went to the Clippers to back up Ivica Zubac. Miles Turner comes in, and there is your floor spacer. Also, pretty good rim protector and going to be able to play in a lot more games and be on the court a lot more than Brook Lopez at 37 years of age. So he's bringing the space and he's bringing the pop. It translates into this. The lane is open for Giannis. We're going to put shooters all around this dude. That's what's going to happen. And then he is going to get downhill and then kick it out to his shooters. That is the plan. So point forward, Giannis expands the pace and assist volume. Early touches. Doc wants a quicker decision, switchable defenders, and he wants controlled angry defense. That's what he wants. Early offense converts gravity into into team pace. So they're not saying they want to be Indiana Pacers, but they kind of do want to be Indiana Pacers. We talked about Lillard's ruptured Achilles, and then he was waived and stretched, so there's dead money on the Bucks. So they're kind of stuck in limbo a little bit. We talked about Turner replacing Lopez, how good that was. Now Kevin Porter Jr. is back. Looks like he's going to be in the starting role. We'll see how it all goes. He's going to have to shoot the ball at a really good rate to stay on that court. Now, I will say that the on-court takeaways that we're looking for early on in the season is the Turner fit, the pick and pop, that threat that creates clean lanes for Giannis drives. That's the most important thing with the Milwaukee Bucks this year. Now, the pop forces long closeouts. Obviously, you gotta respect Miles Turner when he has a ball in his hand and he's standing behind that three-point line, because we all know that 3 is more than 2. But Doc Rivers has talked about high outlets, wing sprints to the corners on every make. Point Giannis accelerates the inbound to attack pace. KPJ works as a secondary initiator. Those are the things that we're looking for. So Giannis' long-term future persists. And this is the thing that the Milwaukee fans have always been like real salty with the media and people like me. When is Giannis leaving, right? Now, I've never really kind of said that because, up until now, I didn't really think it was a distinct possibility. Now I do. And the reason why I do is that I understood the move. I understood the move of Dame leaving and you guys waived and stretched him. I understood that move. I even understood why you went after a Miles Turner. I got it. How do you piece the rest of it together? Because say what you want about Dame, we never saw the pick and roll between Dame and Giannis, but Dame is a 20-point per game dude. Actually, if he's right, he's a 20-plus point per game guy. Miles Turner is never going to hit those highs. Miles Turner was a number 3 option at best in Indiana. Now you're asking him to be a number 2. And then we are going to basically rotate a number 3 option, because that's what it looks like. Am I not seeing it correctly? Is there somebody on this roster that I'm missing? Are you telling me that Kyle Kuzma is going to bounce back and be a 18-point per game dude for you? Because you got a lot of players, you got a lot of dudes on this team who can shoot the ball. Gary Trent Jr. can shoot the ball. Kevin Porter Jr. can shoot the ball. The problem is that there's no one on this team as of right now that I see that really says I can provide that productivity you're looking for. Now, Kuzma's volume may not equal efficiency, but he is the best option you have. Do you really think that Kevin Porter Jr. can also help with this? There's a lot more questions than there are answers in Milwaukee. And when does Giannis say enough is enough? I don't know. That's why you have this scenario where it's early offense. Let's get into it, because you don't want to be in a half-court setting and now these dudes are not pulling the trigger. If Gary Trent Jr. stays at a 40% rate from deep, Giannis assists spike, first side shots are cleaner, and you can go ahead and get everybody in the spin cycle. If Kuzma's rebounds, he solves your number 3 gaps for second units. The third scorer will be by committee. It's whoever's hot, and you pray to God that you don't have multiple guys going to a slump, because Giannis is going to score his. Miles Turner is going to give you a certain amount, and I wonder if they can get him to 20 points a game. They might need it, but he's not been that guy. He didn't have to be that guy in Indiana because Pascal Siakam walked in the door. Now, here's a question for Milwaukee fans. You're starting 5s next to Giannis and Turner. Who is it? Is it KPJ? Is it Kyle Kuzma? Is it AJ Green? Can Trent Jr. be that sniper that you absolutely need? Does the Kuzma bounce back season equal, hey, we'll now take pressure off whoever's going to be that third guy? Questions. A lot more questions than answers. So today's receipts show philosophical reset. Doc Rivers talks about quicker ethos. Point Giannis is a real thing, and Turner's geometry reshaping the half court. I'm telling you, it was critical to get him. But again, he's never been a super volume dude. He's going to have to probably shoot 7 threes a game. I'm not saying that he's not willing to do it. He's just not accustomed to doing it. Speed on offense, getting the ball. If for some reason your opponent scores, get the ball up the court as quickly as possible and start your actions. Movement is going to be a hell of a drug for the Milwaukee Bucks. Who's going to cut? Are they smart cuts? Can Kuzma regain some of the stuff that he had in Los Angeles? Because I'm going to tell you right now, Kyle Kuzma in Los Angeles, when he was playing with the Lakers, that's the one thing he could do. Now, he could shoot the ball and all that other stuff too. He was kind of a Swiss Army knife type of guy. But he made critical cuts when people on the defensive end started to kind of just be in a daze and be a little more casual. He would get to the hole and LeBron would hit him with a pass and wide open layup. And that is something that Milwaukee is looking to do. And Milwaukee is not rebuilding. They're reprogramming their team. Every sprint, every early pass, every clean corner is a vote for the future. If you're not using the whole clock and you're helping Giannis. Fast, quick decisions are what this team is going to need. The ball needs to find energy. Do not hold on to the ball for very long. Kyle Kuzma, you can't do all that stuff that you were doing in Washington. Point blank, period, end of story. Speed plus spacing skills a superstar. And what we're looking for in the first week, early offense. Early offense on misses, early offense on makes. Can the ball find energy? Giannis will need all the help he can get. Next up, we need to talk about the Detroit Pistons. So, what about the Pistons this year? You made the playoffs. K looked awesome. So what is the story this year? And the story is easy. Jaden Ivey coming out party. Cade already proved to us gloriously. Now it's time for Jaden to go ahead and take that moniker as the second leading scorer. We're going to track pace, point of attack stops, and corner threes. That's where the maturity shows for our guy. This is this is the first Cade era season. Obviously, after getting to the playoffs, what is the expectations this year? Obviously, is to get back to the playoffs. And how far you go is the maturity and also the development of Jaden Ivey. Now, he had a catastrophic injury last year that quelled him, and we'll talk about all the stuff that's happened to Jaden Ivey since he's been a Detroit Piston over the time that we're going to be talking about the Pistons. But let me get back to this real quick. The vibes are good, right? The promise of what they put together last year, the proof was in the assignment, and now Ivey returns from a fibula injury, and the reports are is that he looks explosive. He looks like himself again, which is great. Asura Thompson, Jalen Duren, what kind of leaps can they take in this year 2 under JB Bickerstaff? Continuity. Oh my God, think about this. We're going to have some continuity in Detroit. It's a new flex. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're going to hey man, guess what? We got all our guys back basically. The likely starters look like it's going to be Cade, Ivey, Asur, Tobias Harris, and Jalen Duren. It's a real rotation. This is what we were expecting last year. We didn't get to see it a lot because of the injury to Ivey. Can Detroit shift its potential to production? And does Ivy's pace and point of attack defense and his abundance of corner 3 volume, does it go up? So after the excitement of last year, what's the goal this year? Well, let's get into it. The organization won't speak up this year. Postseason is expected. No questions asked. You obviously got Cade, who looked like a stud last year. Expectations change. Patience, rotation patience. So really, again, Ivy, who we'll get into momentarily, I understand what has gone on with him, but he's got to have a big year. He's got to have a big year. So what is JB Bickerstaff going to look to do in year 2? What's the carryover scheme? Are there clear roles for this team? Fewer excuses. And again, Ivy must become a clean number 2. Second in touch, attacker, real threes, and go ahead and play gritty defense for show. The identity hardens under stakes. Also, they got Jarace Walker from Cleveland. He's one of the most versatile and adaptable players I've ever coached, said JB Bickerstaff. And then they drafted Chaz Lanier. Off-ball instincts. You know what I'm saying? He shoots a 3. We'll see what it means. Keep in mind, there's still Marcus Sasser and other people in this mix. Now, you are coming off the situation. Woo! Malik Beasley, man, he went through it this off season, and I just don't know how that's gonna work. They also got Duncan Robinson from Miami. We'll talk about him in a minute. But the projected starters, obviously, we talked about who's gonna be starting. Now, who's coming off the bench? You know what I'm saying? Who is gonna lead that charge? So you got Ron Holland, who turns defense into transition identity. You know, can Lanier turn into that movement shooter that we thought that Marcus Sasser was going to be? Or is Duncan Robinson that guy? Is Duncan Robinson what was promised? And keep in mind, you got bench competition with you got Sasser. LeVert is definitely going to get his minutes. Duncan Robinson is going to get his minutes. Holland is going to get his. And then Isaiah Stewart, which is our guy. So they really have a 9-man rotation right now. So they'll be able, they're young legs, they're hungry, they want to win. Ron Holland is an absolute beast, and what I mean by that is that he also seems to be taken under the wing of one Beef Stew, and you know that's our guy, Beef Stew. He ready to fight. He ready to throw hands at any point in time in the game. You know what I'm saying? Beef Stew is a beast, bro. LeVert Duncan Robinson connection that is going to tell us what Detroit can actually be this year. Because Malik Beasley shot, I think he shot, his attempts were like, he shot over 10%, 10 attempts a game, and shot the ball very well, right around 40%. Now, if Ivy is coming back and he's the number 2, when they go to the bench, does Ivy become the de facto point guard, or does that fall to Caris LeVert? Because Caris can handle that role, but I wonder if Ivy is the guy who actually ends up doing it. Is that where the rotation starts to go? Or does it become a 10-man rotation and the Marcus Sasser era coming off the bench begins? But Detroit has plenty of options, and they got plenty of depth, and they got plenty of people. Well, if this doesn't work, we got something else. Now, getting back to Ivy last year, it looked good at the start. It looked like volume scorer. It was streaky efficiency. The 3-ball was trending upward. You know what I'm saying? Doran looked like an elite rim finisher, top tier rebounder. His usage was modest by design. You know what I'm saying? Just, hey, yeah, we just catch lobs, my guy. Asur Thompson, he was defensive plus. Now, his 3-point attempts, still, shaky. Also, percentages, shaky. He is going to have to get better at shooting the three. And it really is going to come down to Ivy. And what I want to talk about that with Ivy is this, is that, he's been mishandled. He's been mishandled since the get-go. He looks good in practice right now, but let's talk about his first year under Monty Williams. He was in the doghouse. He didn't get the reps that he needed. They were starting, what was that kid's name from France and stuff like that? Oh my God, I can't remember his name, but he sucked. So now, Jaden Ivey comes back, has an injury, loses a lot more time. So now he's learning this year on the fly as Detroit steps up into this contendership role. And I'm not saying like they're contending for a championship. Let's not get over our skis as of yet. But it will be critical, Ivy's development, and I don't mind a couple losses early in the season if it means that Ivy is getting the reps and also the opportunities that he is going to need to be that number 2 that Cade needs to lean on. Those are the type of things that are going to happen this year. You are going to have to crack a couple eggs to make an omelet. And you are also going to have to lean on Duncan Robinson. Can Duncan Robinson's 3-point attempts ratio, it doesn't have to reach the Malik Beasley lofty air that he lived in. But he needs to shoot probably 6.5 to 7 threes a game. Somebody is going to have to take up some of the slack that is left by Malik Beasley and all the craziness that happened with him. Now, here's the other thing. Does Doran continue to anchor the defense and provide the rim protection that you need? I don't see nothing but upside for this kid. He's uber athlete. He's super strong. He positions well for rebounds. He uses his athleticism to win the day. Sometimes you kind of wish that it was more fundamental. But hey, if you're an uber athlete like him, jump over some people every once in a while. It is what it is. And Asur is going to be a disruptor on defense, but the problem is that his shooting must come around. It must look more. It has to improve. It just has to. Now, Duncan Robinson and Tobias Harris are going to provide great veteran leadership. Tobias was much maligned in Philadelphia, but that had a lot to do more with the contract than it did with the way he played. Now, I know he does have a propensity to disappear. I get it. I understand it. But he's not the guy you lean in on as far as offense is concerned. It's like, listen, he's really like your 5th dude in the rotation. You're hoping that Ivy and Cade and Doran are going to score the basketball. You're hoping that Asur Thompson, because of his playmaking ability, is able to be that connective piece, and also he's such an absolute disruptor on the defensive end that you end up in transition more times than not. Now, the wild card is Chaz Lanier. Now, Chaz Lanier shoots the ball like he shot the ball last year, and he's able to put in a real productive 12 to 15 minutes per game as a movement spacer and kind of take up some of that slack that Malik Beasley left a void in. Then you don't need as much as you thought you needed from Duncan Robinson. And really, again, it's going to be the synergy between Cade and Ivy, and see how this works and see how it starts to ramp up in November. So, expectations are real in Detroit. Ivy's healthy. Asur and Doran are trending up. JB's continuity is showing. Growth doesn't mean flashes. It means consistency. And the next 2 weeks are the test. Cade and Ivy synergy and the disruptive behavior of the wings in rhythm, the bench spacing stability, and Detroit's blueprint for sustainable offense if they keep the tempo where it was last year. They must defend at the point and trust their spacing rules. They must do that. Now, Habits Cash promises the Pistons' leap won't be hinge on youth. It'll hinge on repetition. And also hinge on Jaden Ivey's leap this year. Because guess what? He probably wants a contract. So, our guy, I think Detroit is going to look good this year. And the thing about it is that if for some reason they decide to pivot, they got some pieces that they could do, they could use. So I look at Detroit and go, they probably going to be in that first half of contenders. Like, they're probably going to be a 4 seed, anywhere between, you know what I'm saying? That's probably where they're going to end up being. So I'm looking forward to all of that. I'm looking forward to Detroit becoming the team that we know they can become. Now, this leads us to Cleveland. And Cleveland is now or never. Depth, health issues, and the biggest question is the Allen question. So, attention Cleveland. Y'all know what time it is. Y'all know that the sands of the hourglass are starting to fade away. Now, the East injuries open a lane for them, and the bracket might never look this friendly ever again. The likes of Boston, Milwaukee is going through a flux as far as that's concerned. The Pacers, obviously Tyrese Halliburton. But in the NBA, windows close fast. Habits decide who stays in them. You know what I'm saying? The Cavs have gone 51, 48, and then 64 wins over their past 3 seasons, but only 2 playoff series victories to show for it. Regular season flex does not equal made proof. This is the most expensive roster in franchise history. It's pushing nearly $400 million with tax dollars. That's what sources are saying. Garland is still ramping up. Remember that he had the turf toe injury, so they are not playing at full strength right now. They also lost Ty Jerome, so Strus is also shelved. Multiple knees, constant monitoring, you know what I'm saying? And then there is the other question. Is it a final or bust year? Does Jarrett Allen shine in October through April and then fade under the playoff lights and the scrutiny? That can't happen again. The lane is open and the time is now. Again, this is the cleanest path that Cleveland has had to the finals since the LeBron era. They got to get healthy, and Allen must show up in the playoffs. Because I think this team is they're going to win high 50s again. I mean, if you just ask me my opinion right now. And this is not knowing what's going to happen with Darius Garland. But at the end of the day, this needs to happen. Again, Boston, Indiana, injuries. Bucks are retooling. You're just doing it on the fly. The core of the Cavaliers is Mitchell, Garland, who's hurt, Mobley, and Allen. And then you got shooters like Hunter, Strus, and Merrill. Our guy Merrill is still bringing the heat. You know how big a fan I am of our guy Merrill. Is this the season for Cleveland? Well, the bracket favors them. Early chemistry while injuries heal. Because here's the thing. DeAndre Hunter now will have a full season with the Cleveland Cavaliers. We haven't even mentioned Lonzo Ball. Also, are we really sure that we want to lean on Lonzo? Like, how many games is he going to be able to play? And I love Lonzo Ball. I think he's a great connecting piece. He shoots a 3 ball pretty good for, he started off terrible, man. When he was a Laker, he couldn't shoot the 3 to save his damn life. but he has worked on it. He's worked on his mechanics, and he has become a legitimate, productive threat behind that line. Ownership has greenlit roster. Finals or surgery. That's what it looks like. Pieces missing from this team if they don't do what they're supposed to do this year. So, pressure is on. Now, Kenny Atkinson did something really awesome. The offense ranked number 1 last season. The goal is sustaining that tempo when healthy creators come back. Tempo via early triggers, not hero ball. You know what I'm saying? And Mobley, as a defensive player a year candidate all the time. His switching, his hedging, the protecting at the rim, great. Now, Jarrett Allen during the regular season looks like a stud. Blocking shots, getting rebounds, having a great throw, telling us about the Legos that he's put together. But it's not what you do between October and April. It's what you do after that. Hunter and Merrill, one thing, Hunter is going to bring defense and spacing. Merrill brings shooting. I don't think, as much as it was hard to lose Ty Jerome, with DeAndre Hunter and Merrill and then Lonzo Ball, they're going to be all right. Now, keep in mind, they're in the second apron, so that means all of the things are closed off to them. No buyout candidates. You can't aggregate salaries. You can't take more money in than you put out, as far as that's concerned. So keep those things in mind. So if there was a trade to be made, they're going to have to take less money back. So let's say they had a guy who was $22 million and they wanted to bring in a wing or another big or whatever it was, and that guy was $24 million. They cannot do it. They cannot do it. Now, the rookie Proctor from Duke, he could provide some shooting if for some reason they needed it. Did you know that the Cavaliers are 11-15 under this current core? Now, they did bring in Lonzo Ball and also Larry Nance Jr. These are great vets to have on a team. You know, they got a lot of playoff experience. They've seen a lot in the NBA. Nance Jr. is one of them dudes. I like Nance. He's great. He's got to stay healthy. Lonzo Ball's got to stay healthy. And our accountant, Dean Wade, has to stay healthy. Now, a couple things that I want to see, or couple things that we might see this year, just depending on those minutes, could be a necessity, not a luxury, to downsize, to go ahead and get a more frenetic pace, depending on, who they want to have in the game. Because you could have a lineup where DeAndre Hunter plays the 4, Lonzo Ball plays the 3, and then you still have the guards in there. Now, obviously, Garland's not in there right now, but you could have, when everybody's healthy, you could play that type of lineup and have a lot of defense on the floor. And it also preserves Darius Garland, because Darius Garland is not the greatest defender. He's smaller. He gives you effort, but that has always been the bugaboo. But the problem was, you always had to lean on Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley on the back end of that. Well, in the playoffs, that has not come to fruition. So I wonder if you'll see maybe a lineup where the wings are a little bit more stingy as far as point attack defenders, not allowing people to get in the lane as much, and then you have Mobley cleaning it up. Now, with the East being as weak as it is, I do expect that the Cavs can coast to the playoffs. I'm not saying that this is a critical year for them for the 82-game season. It's a critical year for the 16-game season. You cannot do what you've done over the last couple years. We will talk about it as we close up shop in a second. Depth is fixed. You got enough dudes as far as that's concerned. They kept there's a lot of money on this team. So let's get to it. Let's start talking about what we really need to talk about. Could the best closing five be Mitchell, Garland, Hunter, Mobley, and Allen? Or is it Mitchell, Garland, Ball, Hunter, and Mobley? And I'll tell you why in a second. If Hunter's knees broke, who fills in? Well, they got Dean Wade, they got Lonzo Ball, they got enough pieces to figure this out. That's the whole thing. It's like, we're going to get 30 games for DeAndre Hunter. I'm just kidding. But if there's any sort of like nagging knee injuries, they do have some. They can go ahead and go on a minutes restriction. They do have enough wing depth to go ahead and cover that. I do not worry about that as much. What I do worry about is this. The receipts are in. You guys are an elite core. The Cavaliers are an elite core. This is an expensive payroll. But Allen's May history is looming. And what I mean by that is that, are you soft, or are you going to be able to handle this, man? Are you going to be able to be a stout defender? Are you going to be able to handle the bright lights of the playoffs? We can talk about windows being open, wider, and all this other stuff, and whatever the case may be. But the bottom line is that we did see Mobley step up last year. We didn't see Jarrett Allen step up last year. So the question isn't whether they're talented enough. It's whether they're durable enough, and also how much heart do you got? Because you got an explosive scorer in Donovan Mitchell. Darius Garland, when healthy, is an incredible guard. He can go ahead and break down the defense, get into the paint, and kick it out to shooters, or also create offense for himself. Mobley that's the key. Is his aggressiveness going to continue? Are we going to feed that beast? Is this guy usage rate going to go up? I think that is a critical key for the Cleveland Cavaliers this year. If Mobley is the guy that we think he is, and the guy that I thought he was coming out of the draft, then we're going to be okay. And then we'll see about Jarrett Allen. Because here's the other thing. Do the Cleveland Cavaliers just trade Jarrett Allen by the trade deadline and either kind of reset some of their salary structure and get picks? Or do they bring in like a lesser type of, big to back up Mobley, and they kind of retool? And I'm not saying like let's trade people before all this gets settled, but I want to make sure that people understand this. This is the last season you'll see this Cavaliers team if for some reason they flame out early in the playoffs, and there will be fingers pointed in a lot of directions. Now, I will never say it's going to be Kenny Atkinson, because I think Kenny Atkinson did an incredible job last year. But do you have the same backcourt next year if you flame out? Probably not. You'll have to pick between Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. Is the Fro going to be in Cleveland when it is all said and done? Or does he move on to different pastures? And does Evan Mobley's ascension continue to the point where, is he a 5 or is he still a 4? And you bring in another like rugged dude that's cost effective and things of that nature. All these questions will be answered, and they will not be answered in October. They won't be answered in January, and they damn sure won't be answered in March and April. They will be answered in May and June. Trust and believe I say that. So, like Soraya just said, windows don't knock twice. So the time, just like John Cena says, the time is now. Because you got all the pieces you need to get to the finals. There is no narrative. There's no excuses. It is what it is at this point. You don't get it done this year. Think about it this way. Boston will be back and they'll be whole. Indiana will be back. By the way, you got to deal with the Knicks this year. The Pistons. People are already saying the Pistons are tougher than you. People are already saying that. So this is a get right year for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I think that fan base knows it. And I think there's, if you get them in a moment where they were just able to kind of speak about it, pretty bluntly, they're a little nervous too. They don't know. Because they have not seen the proof of concept. Now, I will say this. Mowgli's safe. Mowgli's not going anywhere. But there will be choices to be made if this does not go right this season. With that being said, I want to thank my producer, Soraya. Thank you so much for what you do, kid. It's appreciated. All the notes that you've given me really helped this situation. Now, keep in mind, programming note. We will be podcasting this weekend. There'll be pods over the weekend. I've already got the Southeast Division done. We got to record it. So we're going to work on that. The other thing is this, is that Tuesday, I don't care what happens. I don't care if the place is on fire. I don't care if I'm sick. I don't care if I got shot over the weekend. Whatever. I'm kidding. I'm not going to get shot over the weekend. It's going to be great. But Tuesday is our prediction show. We will have like MVP predictions. We will have Rookie of the Year predictions, Defensive Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, all that. We'll be talking about teams and totals and who's going to be where and what's going to happen. Now, I am going to tell you this. We are a podcast that says, hey, we'll get you to the playoffs and then we'll start making our decisions then on who we think is going to get to wherever we need to go to get that Larry O'Brien. Okay, so if you looking for us to say, hey, we think this team is going to be champion, we're probably not going to say that. But we will say, hey, we think these teams will be in the upper echelon competing for the championship. That's what you will get. So hopefully you will hear your squad in that situation. With that being said, the best part of you is you. Surround yourself with people who give you light, insight, and joy, and accountability. Appreciate them out loud. That's your real wealth. And if you're still finding your tribe, know this. You got one here with us, with FRPC. Until next time, keep your mind sharp, your heart open, and your circle tight. I'm Vince for Soraya. We out. Peace.